Welcome once again to Garden America. The boys are back in town. We are in studio. I'm Brian Main along with Tiger Palafox. Actually, John's not here. So when I say the boys are back in town, two of us are. We've got two Palafoxes. Is that right? Two Palafoxes in studio this morning, Tiger?
Yeah, is Palafoxes or Palafoxi?
Or Palafoxi. Yeah, your dad's with us this morning in studio. Fausto is with us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here. You know, you were here a while back.
Yes.
So you're not exactly a rookie when it comes to this show.
Correct.
But you're sitting in for John today. So
Right. I don't know if I can fill those shoes, though.
Well, no, get ready because I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions.
Okay.
About your past, how you got into the industry.
Sounds good.
How things are going, how you got this guy involved.
Okay.
So it's going to be a fun show. And again, for the rest of you, we're open for business in terms of Facebook Live. Any questions, any comments whatsoever, do take part. Do throw them our way. A special hello to our friends on Biz Talk Radio, our national, how should I put this? Our national syndicated, trying to think how I want to
distributor.
I want to say something very nice about them because they're great people. Stephanie and the rest of you, thank you for doing a good job with us every weekend. Now, yes, I'll use the word distributor. They distribute our show to many markets across the country. So thank you, those on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you to our sponsors. Yes, Facebook Live. Here we go. John is in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Yeah. I wonder if we have anybody in Shreveport right now.
Anybody in
following
Louisiana?
The show. Yeah, or in Louisiana even. Because, he's there for a rose auction.
You know, put it this way. Whenever John is not here, I guarantee you it's some kind of rose
thing.
It's a rose thing.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's an auction.
Perhaps it's just a rose show.
But it's always about roses. With John, everything's coming up roses.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Did you have a good week?
I did. It's a nice week. You know, it was a nice week here in San Diego because we got a little bit of rain, cool weather. Wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. Just all around good.
It was a good week.
You know, I mean, we know that the heat's coming, so there's no itch to try to hurry up and get there.
No.
So it's kind of nice when we have these weeks that kind of break it up a little bit.
Absolutely. So Mission Hills Nursery.
Yes.
Mission Hills. So are you from San Diego?
Correct.
And you went to high school where?
Sweetwater High School.
I'm a Mission Bay guy.
Okay.
So
a lot of baseball players come out of Mission.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, even back in the day, we had a
How
lot
many
of
high schools were around when you were in high school?
Well, there's a lot. I mean, it's not that.
Well, but I mean, no, but there's
Well,
more
not
and
as
more
many as
that
there
pop
are
up.
now.
There's more and more that pop up every year, right?
Well, let's just say that Sweetwater was one of the first high schools down in the South Bay.
Yeah, exactly. So
now they have like 10.
What's your background in horticulture, gardening? How did you get into this? From a small child?
Yes. Basically, I got a job at a nursery in National City. My uncle worked there. And so I got a job there on weekends or during the holidays, actually schlepping Christmas trees and bags of steer manure.
And how old were you?
Oh, I was underage. I was
we all were.
I started at about 10, 11 years of age. And then I got into trouble. And I got suspended for a week from school. Mm-hmm. And so my dad said, well, you're not going to stay at home and watch cartoons all day.
Right. You're going to
So
work.
he goes, you're going to go work with your uncle. And
So it's a family thing. It goes back.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It does go back.
Uh-huh.
And so all through high school, what did you do in high school? Were you still working in the industry?
Oh, yeah. Every weekend. Every Saturday and Sunday I was working at the nursery. And after a while, it was fun. I had a good time there. I learned a lot. And the other good thing about it is I had money in my pocket, whereas most of my counterparts never had it. They were always asking their dad for $10. I never had to ask my dad for any money. So that made it worth staying. You know what I'm saying? But no, it was also a good education, good public speaking and stuff.
And then you went to school following high
Absolutely.
school?
Yeah, I went to college, UCSD.
Okay.
And then did that for a while, and then they kept calling me back from at the time the business name was Nurseryland Garden Centers, an old nursery chain here in San Diego.
I remember Nurseryland. They were huge.
Yeah, huge.
Yeah, very big.
And so they wanted me back, and I ended up just kind of moving up the ladder. Started out as a trainee, assistant manager, manager. There's a store down the ways here called it's on Marina Boulevard. That was a store I managed.
I remember. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so I ran that store for some time, and then from there I got moved up to a what they call a district manager. So I oversaw several stores, about 9 stores in San Diego
So
County.
you worked your way up. It's
yeah.
it's like the guy that starts out as a dishwasher
Yeah.
and eventually owns the restaurant or manages it.
Yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
on-the-job training.
Yeah.
So at what point did your family purchase Mission Hills Nursery? How did that come about?
It was in '89, and basically, I've always been one of those individuals that doesn't like to be told how things are.
Right.
I want to experience it for myself, and one of the things that I wanted to experience as well as do was to own my own business.
Or you want to call the shots.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think a lot of us, you know, are like that.
Yeah, and so that's where that decision came about. The things just happened to come together, and we were able to make that happen. And haven't looked back. I mean, it was a lot of work because being an operations guy in an office, you got a lot of people doing stuff for you.
Now, when you purchased the nursery, did you, I'm sure before you bought it, you said, you know what, if I had this place, I'm going to do things differently. I'm going to make some changes, because you mentioned change. So how big of an undertaking was that?
Oh, it was tremendous. However, you don't do it overnight.
No.
So you just kind of move along as you can do it. But definitely, I mean, you're looking at a little retail garden center that was really stuck back in the 50s back then.
And tucked away, unless you knew where it was,
Yeah.
you're not going to find it.
I mean, you know, you don't think of a business in the middle of a neighborhood, and that's the way this was.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, Tiger, your son, did he naturally want to follow in your footsteps, or did it take some prodding? Talk to us about how he came about to do what he's doing today.
I think as a son, he's always been very positive. However, I don't think this was, or the nursery business was something that was on the top of his list. But I've always encouraged even my daughter to go out and explore. I mean, the business is always going to be here.
Yeah.
And if you want to do something else or try something else, by all means. And so Tiger did exactly that. I mean, he went to school. In fact,
You went away to school.
he went away to school up
Yeah.
to San Luis Obispo.
Right.
And I said, you know, we're going to pay for your college. We're going to pay for this, but we're not going to pay for any beer money. And so if you want beer money, you got to go earn it. And so I get this phone call, and it's my son. And he goes, I got a job. I go, oh, fantastic. What are you doing now? I work in a nursery. I go, well, what are you going? Why'd you go to college to go work in a nursery?
It was an easy job to get.
It was, and that was where? What nursery?
It was a Los Osos Valley Nursery in Los Osos, right outside of San Luis Obispo.
And so, kind of like in the footsteps of your father, you were just schlepping, or what were you doing right away?
Oh, well, it was a real small nursery. So I think one of the things that the owner, because it was an owner, me, and then another person.
Really?
There was only 3 of us. And the
Well,
owner
that's
was
good though,
very,
right?
yeah. The owner was very absentee in the sense of, I think the positive thing of hiring me was he didn't have to worry about the nursery because I already knew what to do. I already knew everything about it. So it was kind of like an easy transition for him.
Right.
So that's why I think I got the job. And it was an easy job for me because that nursery was even much smaller than our nursery. So I just talked to people, sold plants, sold
It was
flowers.
like having some Major League Baseball experience, and then you go down to the minors, and you're like, "Oh, this is easy."
Yeah.
because I had a taste of the big time.
Right.
So
Exactly.
So at what point? How young were you? And we've got a break coming up in about a minute. How young were you when you first started in your family's nursery at Mission Hills?
I would say I came back and really focused on working at the nursery at age 21.
But before that, because you said you had experience before college.
Oh, yeah, because I would work there almost every other summer. I did get a summer job as a lifeguard for a while. So I was off and on working. I would help out a lot during Christmas time. So definitely when, 12 years old, I
Right.
started really kind of,
Then you came back. You're 21. You come back, and then you think this
Exactly.
is what I want to do.
yeah. Because I like the entrepreneur aspect of it.
Yeah.
Being your own boss, being able to make decisions,
Right.
being able to make changes,
Right.
all of that stuff.
Kinda like-
kind of like what Dad.
And kind of like Garden America.
Yeah.
We run it. We make our own decisions.
Exactly.
Hey, we probably don't have time, but do you have the quote of the week
I do.
from John?
Do you want me to do it or wait till after the break?
Let's do it after the break.
All right.
So we're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Those on Facebook Live, of course, much quicker. We do encourage questions, comments, whatever they might be this morning. Fausto Palafox is in studio. Tiger's dad. I'm Brian Main. John is in Louisiana. I did a spot this week for Louisville, Kentucky. Don't say Louisville.
That's right.
Louisville.
You got to say Louisville.
So, but it is Louisiana. John is off back next week. So we're going to take a break back after these messages for our good friends and our great sponsors on Biz Talk Radio. Hey, we have returned from the break. Thank you to those on Biz Talk Radio. Thank you, Stephanie, the network that distributes our show each and every weekend across the country. Thank you for that. We are back on Facebook Live. With John being out, Tiger's going to read the quote of the week. And Tiger, here we go.
All right. So the quote of the week is, everything that slows us down and forces patience, everything that sets us back into the slow circles of nature is a help. Gardening is an instrument of grace. And that was by May Sarton.
Yeah, gardening is not to be hurried.
Definitely not. Well, you can't.
Because, plants don't hurry for the most part, unless you're talking about bamboo or seaweed.
Yeah,
Two of the fastest growing plants on the planet.
My son went up to the flower fields with his class a week ago.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, and up there they gave him a little cup, and they planted a little sunflower seed in it. And so he's been waiting for that to emerge. And it just emerged like a day ago. But it's kind of cool because it comes out of the seed, and the seed shell sits on the top of it, before it really opens up. And he's like, oh, I want to pull it off. And I'm like, no, leave the seed on it. It'll fall out by itself, and just let it do its own thing.
Teaching him patience.
Exactly. Trying to.
Yeah, to this day, that's my biggest bugaboo, patience. I always wanted things to happen right away. I can remember as a kid, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, I'd be with my parents and I'd ask them a question. Hey, can we do this or that? And they'd say, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
So then I'd say, well, when are we going to see? And he looked at me like, what are you talking about? Well, you said we'll see. I want to know when we're going to see.
The next day.
You
said we would see.
Yeah, that's exactly right. They thought that was so funny. They go, just be patient. So my not having a lot of patience started very young with me. But I love getting out and gardening. I just love doing it. It's so cathartic, the right word?
Yeah.
I just, I love it. And I kind of happened into this because way before I got involved in this show, I would go out, I bought a house, go out and buy plants, Home Depot, whatever, stuff them in my car, trunk, back seat, plant them. I was very successful without knowing what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And then years ago, when we were doing our show with Bruce Asakawa, and we were talking about things, and I kind of spit out some information, and he said, be careful, because now you know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like, just be, don't forget your roots where you didn't know what you were doing. You gave it a little water and a little fertilizer, and that worked out for you. Just be careful. And I've always carried that with me. Mm-hmm. What does that mean, actually, though, Fausto? What to those that are listening?
I think once you enjoy and you begin to do the practice of gardening,
right?
We talk about patience. Of course, you can't hurry Mother Nature. But more importantly, you'll begin to really learn how to tweak what you're doing. It's like when you first start out, you'll go to a nursery and you don't know anything. And you'll get these general purpose fertilizers, you'll get these general purpose soils, et cetera, et cetera. It's like anything else. Once you begin to know what you're doing, then you begin to perfect it. And you use certain fertilizers at a certain time of the growth pattern. Mm-hmm. You use a certain kind of food, and then you start looking for certain bugs. And then how am I going to deal with these individual insects, et cetera, et cetera. And so it becomes more fun to do because you're trying to solve little problems.
Right.
And so you can be dangerous in the sense that all of a sudden you're in a conversation with somebody and you're telling them how to run their garden,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very interesting how I happened to fall into this show, and just this is my second love outside of radio, TV, and media broadcasting, and of course sports, background in sports. But it's been a good time. So 1989, you purchase it.
Yes.
What was the first day of work like? And I'm asking asking you to go back to a single day.
No. It was actually a beautiful day. It's a gorgeous day, and It was still a little bit of spring, and kind of a little nervous because, more importantly, not so much with the task that I was doing, being a nursery person, but I had inherited a bunch of new employees. And so I had to
So you didn't hire them?
No, I had not hired them. They were acquired with the business, and they were all great. I mean, there was nothing wrong with them, but I just had to develop new relationships with them. That was important to me, to make sure that you didn't have a mass mutiny or whatever.
Right.
But the
you have
bottom
to
line,
assure them that everything's going to be okay.
and the neat thing about it is they were all plants people, so it was kind of fun to learn from them. They had a lot to do. And what I brought to the skills that I brought in was the skills of marketing, merchandising,
Right.
that type of thing.
Outside of knowing how to garden, managing, marketing, making it work, no matter what kind of business it is.
Exactly.
So we got a question already from Antoinette. What are some good resources if you want to start a small nursery? Wow. Never had that question before.
Yeah.
I guess she's asking, where do I start?
What's funny is that I went to a panel for high school students recently, and it was a job panel. It was a bunch of professionals in San Diego, and high school kids got a chance to come up and ask questions about the different industries. And I mean, before my dad answers the question, I kind of feel like, anybody that's interested in starting any business, obviously you have a passion for whatever you want to do, whether it's restaurant, nursery, selling, music supplies. Okay, the passion's already there, hopefully, for whatever you're going to do. I think that most people need to understand business. So, accounting, keeping track of the money, that's probably one of the biggest things that I think people need to know for business, because hopefully whatever they choose to operate as the business, that passion is already there. I don't know too many people with a passion for accounting.
Well, then make sure that you hire somebody who does have a passion for accounting.
Yeah.
Well, we ask our tax person every year, I go, do you like this? She says, I love it. I love numbers. I love putting this all together. That's what you need if that's not your forte.
Yeah.
And very, very well stated, because you got to keep your eye on the money, right? I mean, very, very easy with everything. Now, you mentioned that prior to buying Mission Hills Nursery, it was kind of, it was okay. It was there. But I imagine one of your first thoughts was, I need to increase business, awareness, make sure people know where we are besides the people in the neighborhood.
Oh, it was amazing how when we first started working there, the business had already been there almost, 100 years.
1910.
And how many people had never heard of it. And so every week it was, I never knew this place was here. So I kind of knew that our marketing approach was somewhat working because we were getting new customers. But basically what you guys are saying, I was very fortunate. I had a business background, and that's where I say the employees were very valuable to me at the time, because they had a passion for plants. A lot of them were not business people. They just loved being in the garden. So
and you need those people.
And absolutely. And so it was a good trade-off, or a good pairing, I should say, that probably started the early success, because we kind of moved on up very quickly after that, after we took over. And think about it. The ownership prior to that didn't even take credit cards, because he didn't want to pay the 2 or 3%.
And this is the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well, just add a couple of bucks to your inventory, right?
Yeah, but no, he didn't. It was all just the stack of checks we would get and the cash.
The old school.
Yeah.
No computers, right?
Exactly. And so anyway, once we started taking credit cards, that was just an easy sales increase, just by the fact that you were providing something for the customer, that made it easy for them.
Right.
And it's amazing today. Very rarely do we ever get a check anymore. Everything's plastic.
Are people still paying cash?
More so, but not as much.
Right.
No checks,
it's,
definitely.
It's all plastic.
Yeah. Sure. So,
But
I imagine then word of mouth starts to spread. You've got new customers, new clientele, and then that's also a great way to spread the word.
Exactly. Oh yeah. The people that shop you, the customers are your biggest advertising, because they're the ones that are singing your praises.
I wanted to start a I had a production company for a while, but I thought if I ever started an advertising company, I would call it word of mouth advertising.
Yeah.
And because I looked it up and I didn't see nobody had that as a business name.
Yeah.
I thought word of mouth advertising,
Yep.
and little logo, some guy,
Yeah.
yelling or
Yelling
something.
it out.
But well, that's good. So it definitely a success story, right?
Oh,
Obviously.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you come back. You're 21 years old.
Yeah.
What was your first main responsibility then when you said, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm back at the nursery. What are you doing first and foremost?
Well, at the time, we actually had 2 nurseries. So
We got to take a break.
Okay.
I am so far over because I'm so enthralled with this conversation. I got to stay on time for the network. So with that said, we're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. Back after these messages here on Garden America. All right, we are back. It is if you're watching or listening to us live, it is Saturday morning, and yes, we are back together again. John is in Louisiana. We're in studio with Tiger Palafox. I'm Brian Main. Fausto Palafox, Tiger's dad, is with us, and we're getting a little history of the business, Mission Hills Nursery, so on and so forth. And before the break, asking Tiger what his first responsibility was at the nursery back from college at about the age of 21 or so. So what are you doing now?
Well, and then I also wanted to answer a little bit more on Antoinette's question about some resources. I would say if she's interested in starting a nursery, to get a job at a local nursery.
Yeah, learn the ropes.
Learn the ropes a little bit. Learn, wherever it is you're planning to open a nursery, start working at one there, and then you'll get a feel for what people are asking for, what kind of clientele you have.
Which is what you did prior to going to college.
Yeah, exactly. And I learned a lot working up at another nursery in San Luis Obispo area to bring back to our nursery. And it's funny because you asked before the break, how did I get back involved at 21 years old? So we had 2 nurseries at the time. We had the Mission Hills Nursery, and then they had also started a nursery in Alpine called Moosa Creek.
I used to live
Moose
in
Creek
Alpine
Nursery
for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And so my responsibility when coming back was to kind of more run Moose Creek Nursery, and which was kind of a similar nursery to the Los Osos Valley nursery. And so it was an easy transition for me. And so that was my first. I had already had a lot of experience, like I said, over the years working with my dad and my mom. So I was able to kind of operate that nursery pretty good. And I think I had 4 or 5 employees on a regular basis, and it was just a mini version
you're a
of
young
Mission Hills
guy. I
Nursery.
imagine some of your employees are older than you.
Oh, they all were.
Yeah, right.
Oh, they all were.
Who was
yeah.
this hotshot kid here? I've got to answer to. How did that go? How did you
It was
handle
good
that?
because the people that were obviously working there and older than me, in the nursery industry, I kind of feel like a lot of the people are maybe semi-retired.
Yeah.
Like Dad said, they just have a passion for the plants and the industry. They're not always real focused on the business or working, which is sometimes difficult because a lot of time they want to work part-time. They don't want to work a lot, which is fine, but they still have that passion. So when they're interacting with their customers, it's good. So they were open to it. They were open to it, I think, for the most part.
So you're running a nursery now. I would imagine with all you learned growing up with your mom and dad and your first job in Los Osos, right?
Yep.
Now you're taking that information and that knowledge, but then we all like to do things our own way.
Oh, yeah.
And I imagine some of your ways weren't like your mom and dad's ways. I mean, for the most part.
What do you think? When I was running Moose Creek Nursery,
What
was
did he bring to the
there
table?
things that you were like, ooh, I wouldn't have done that?
Or maybe
That you
good
remember?
idea, not bad.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when your son's helping you out or working with you, you want to kind of go back to when he's a child and you want to help him cross the street.
Yes.
Because there's cars out there, and he doesn't realize that. And you kind of have that same mentality as an adult, but at the same time, you slowly have to also let him make his own mistakes. And so the idea is, yes, there were certain things that I said, no, you can't do that. When I saw him, you explain
Why you can't do that.
but by the same token, you have to let them experience those those little falls. Otherwise, they can never make up their own mind.
How about coming up with an idea that you said, hey, you know what? Good idea, Tiger. Why don't you implement that?
He has had many of those, and by all means, he can go back through his own catalog of execution, and he's done many things that have helped the business.
And that's
overall.
good because as a mentor or a parent, you're glad to see your child come along, and then even maybe prouder when they come up with ideas to improve something.
Oh, absolutely.
And that shows thought.
Yeah.
It's one thing to learn something out of a book, but then taking that information and coming up with your own ideas based on the foundation you were given.
I've always followed a very simple premise when hiring or having people, and that's the theory of hire somebody that's smarter than you are.
Right.
Okay.
I think
And
you could ask all the smart people in the world that
and
same.
you've hired people that are smarter than you are, and everything else takes care of itself. And I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, so it's not that hard for me.
Right. It's like a lot of people they're hired, they've got a new job. And I think a lot of times they want to make a change right away because there's a new sheriff in town.
Correct.
Smart people might look around and say, you know what? This business is running real well right now. I'm not going to touch anything right now unless I have to. Having the smarts to recognize that and not just the feeling that you got to put your own fingerprint on it right away.
Exactly.
Right.
No, and that's essentially when we took over Mission Hills is that we left everything alone. We didn't touch anything. Even though we knew it was wrong or we knew it wasn't the way it was going to be ultimately, everything was left alone for about 90 days, and slowly we started. And it was mostly on the financial end that we started making the changes. Nothing that the customer saw or on the personnel side, because
Right.
They were doing fine.
A gradual metamorphosis.
Exactly.
And then, it's one thing to say, you know what, let's move the roses over here. They're not getting enough sun during let's move them over here.
Correct.
Okay, basic stuff like that.
Correct.
But I will say that, when my parents did purchase Mission Hills Nursery, it was an established nursery. We talked about how it was established in 1910 and had history, Kate Sessions. But they did purchase it from an older gentleman that was retiring on the later end of his career. And so, a lot of the things that they had to do, you mentioned the credit cards and just some of the overall wear and tear on the facility itself. They had to build it all back up because, they weren't buying a business at the peak of its existence.
Right, sure.
And so, it was kind of cool. It's like taking an old car and restoring it, from that, because, you get this business, the bones are there, it's established, it's been there, but then now to take it into the next few generations is what was important to, I think, my dad and my mom. And I think they've done a great job of that. Even today, a small but big thing to us is, we've owned it for 30 years now. And it had this old chain link fence around it. Okay, that's fine. It works. It's what it is, but my dad's like, hey, let's spruce it up a little bit. And now it has this nice wall, sign, lighting.
Right.
And it just looks a lot prettier. And the neighbors notice it, like, wow, look at, Mission Hills Nursery coming up in the world kind of a thing.
Right. You're improving that helps the attitude of the people in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're sprucing up. Our place suddenly looks a little better.
Yeah.
It just adds to the neighborhood. Because you're right. It's like, these old ballparks back east, Wrigley Field, they're stuck right in the neighborhood. You go down the block and there's the ballpark. Kind of the same with you, a nursery in a residential area.
Exactly.
Now, obviously grandfathered in. You're not going to do that. You're not going to stick a nursery in a residential area.
Oh, you can't.
Today, you can't do that.
Too expensive.
So, was there any talk along the way from the city, like, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to move. You can't be here.
The city, quite frankly, has always been supportive. They recognize that we're grandfathered in.
Okay.
We have never tried. They've never tried to, hey, you need to move out of here or whatever. I'm not saying that they would say no,
Right.
but because it is come to find out that when we finally purchased the land, the physical land, we were one of the largest landowners in Mission Hills.
How about that? How about that? Huh?
But no, there's been nothing but support. But more importantly, the community of Mission Hills is what keeps us there. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
they
that's
are
so
the
important.
ones that really support us.
Yeah. Because there's people, residential, there's houses right across the street from you.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're right there.
We're in the middle of a neighborhood, exactly,
And definitely unique.
And the other thing that makes it fun, and it's kind of a, well, we've been there so long, but there's a school right around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So every morning, parents walk their children right by the nursery, and the kids cut through the nursery, to go in one gate, come out the other gate, or they'll stop in and pet the cat, or say hello to the chickens.
I like to chase the chickens myself.
Yeah.
So.
But it's and it makes it very, very nice because we feel like we're part of the community, and even though I think the community grew up around us,
Right.
we are part of that community.
It's old school. It's almost like going back in time.
Yeah.
And how long did this person? We got to take a break here, so I'll ask this on the other side. So again, any questions, comments? Those on I do see a couple on Facebook Live. Antoinette says that she worked at a small garden center, took some college classes, answering her question about starting a nursery. And then Rick wants to know what products have changed the most. We can get into that, and I've got another question if I can remember it when we get back. This is a break time for Biz Talk Radio on Garden America. Stay with us. Back from the break, Garden America, Brian Main, John Bagnasco. John's in Louisiana. Tiger Palafox, Fausto Palafox in for John this weekend. Kind of a little walk down memory lane, the history of gardening in San Diego, Mission Hills Nursery. Your questions, your comments. If you are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of hour number 1. News coming up top of the hour. We are back. We do 2 hours every weekend. Hopefully you can carry us. We are back at 6 minutes after. So again, the final segment for those on Biz Talk Radio. So I'm going to table my question real quickly here, but let's get into what Rick's asking. What products over the years have changed the most? Now, we all know fertilizer comes to mind as far as from chemicals to organic, but what have both of you seen over the years?
Well, especially here in California, we're based out of California, a lot of the chemical laws have changed dramatically. But we knew this was coming many, many years ago. And so most of the chemicals that we sell tend to be organic.
Organic chemicals.
Yeah. But as I'm saying that, I have to tell you a quick story.
Yeah, sure.
Years ago when I took over the nursery, many of the plants were buggy. And so it was common to go to the shelf, grab a bottle of malathion, spray the bugs, and then,
Kill
go
everything.
on.
Kill everything, right.
And so I was doing this morning. I did it early in the morning, and if anybody remembers malathion, it stunk to high heaven. I mean, it was the worst smelling chemical there is. And I'm looking around and I'm going, oh shoot! I said the neighborhood is going to smell this, and they're going to be up in arms. And it was that moment in time that I said, no, we're never going to spray this stuff again. We're going to either throw these plants away or come up with another solution. So unknowingly, we were already on our way to organics way before it was fashionable. And from that day forward, we never used any petroleum-based chemicals on the nursery.
So you can go back to that moment in time.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea of chemicals, we use organics. We're probably, as a nursery, we are now probably 70 to 80% organic or natural in our chemicals, our fertilizers, and everything else we sell.
Now, you mentioned, and this sounds like a double negative, that's the right term, organic chemicals. Now, that sounds very strange. I'm going to assume somewhere along the line the word safe is in there, but what does that mean, organic chemicals?
Well, typically they're natural products. They come from Mother Nature. They're always man-made, of course,
right?
But they're harvested or they're brought in, and the mixes are done without the use of. Typically, we call it synthetic, meaning, and in the old days it was primarily petroleum was the base that they used. Nowadays you can buy water-based, but they're still synthetic. And I think the one that was came up to date was the stuff that you use for roses. I don't remember the exact chemical in it, but we don't even get around that. We don't even shop it, quite frankly.
I remember as a kid in my folks' garage, the old dark brown bottles with the skull and crossbone.
Exactly.
And it was fertilizer. It was a chemical fertilizer.
Yeah.
And it was just, on the shelf. Yeah. Anybody could have picked it up, drank it, whatever, little kids running around. But yeah, things have definitely changed. And
there was a chemical back in the day called chlordane. I don't know if anybody remembers it.
I think I remember that written on a bottle.
Yeah, 50% chlordane. And that had a shelf life or a half-life in the ground of 50 years.
Oh, geez.
Wow.
And we would spray it like it was
and
rain.
And the thought process back then was, we are going to fertilize the plant. Well, now our thought process, we're going to fertilize the ground in the environment.
Exactly.
And then the plant material can get what it needs from the environment, from the soil.
Yep.
Because obviously spraying a chemical fertilizer on the plant, now it gets into the ground. And like you said, 50-year shelf life underground. And that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
No,
it's just now getting rid of it.
Yeah, right? Yeah,
it's,
just now.
It's changed dramatically. And I think it's for the betterment, because especially now that homes are tighter, you've got, especially here in Mission Hills, you've got little tiny lots. Everybody's sensitive to their neighbors and, what they do. So
now, do you have a lot of clientele from that neighborhood? People that just walk down the street?
In the very beginning, we sell these little plants. They call them 6-packs. And we would call our customers 6-packers, because every day they would come in, buy one 6-pack, go plant it. Wow. They would never come in and buy a whole bunch, but it was always constant. It was very nice.
Let's buy a 6-pack and see how well it does.
Yeah, exactly.
If I can grow this, I'll buy another 6-pack.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not going to commit myself. So go ahead.
Real quick, because on the chemical thing, I want to address. Daniel asked the question of how Eco Gardeners ties in with Mission Hills Nursery.
Right, we see that on the trucks and on your hat.
Yeah, and we are the same company. Eco Gardeners is the landscape maintenance, design, build portion of Mission Hills Nursery.
A subsidiary of your business.
Exactly. And because, we wanted to change the name because, Mission Hills Nursery Gardening Service just didn't seem like it worked.
Right.
And to my dad's idea, Eco Gardeners is a great title for that portion of our business that we're going to run, because it focuses on an eco-friendly, holistic, low-impact way of gardening. Talk about a gardener, a lot of gas-powered tools. They can use a lot of chemicals on your yard. And they don't always approach the yard from a pruning or maintenance standpoint in a way that's going to benefit the whole yard or the plant. So, that's where the Eco Gardeners idea has kind of come from. And so we're the same company, but it's just more landscape design, build, maintenance focused. But it has the same principles that the nursery has, which is safe products to use, organic products, and also just the idea of that the garden is a environment that you want to be able to enjoy and be in. So, anything that we can do to make sure that it's, safe for the kids or the pets or the people there is also important to us.
You love labels that say pet and kid friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
So how'd you meet your wife?
High school.
Oh, high school sweetheart.
Actually, I met my wife, Tony, in junior high school.
Yeah.
How about that?
We went to the same junior high school, and that's where I met her. But, of course, no interest back then.
Right.
It wasn't until probably our senior year in high school that we truly fell in love. And from then, we've been together ever since.
That's beautiful. Hey, we're going to take a break. We've got news coming up on Biz Talk Radio. Keep those questions coming on Facebook Live here as I'm checking a few of those out right now, questions, comments. But again, news coming up here, top of the hour, Biz Talk Radio. We are back at 6 minutes after. Fausto Palafox, Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. This is Garden America, Hour 2, coming up next. Hello there. We are back. If you are tuned in on Biz Talk Radio, this is hour number 2 of Garden America. And if you are a Biz Talk listener, thank you so much for tuning in each and every week or whenever you can, supporting our show. And thank you to our sponsors. I want to thank Fertilome, our major sponsor here on Garden America. We'll be talking more about Fertilome too as we continue next couple of 2 or 3 weeks. I imagine we'll have another interview with Fertilome and talk more about their products because they do so much. But again, prior to the break, asked about your wife. You told us childhood sweethearts, junior high, got serious in high school and got married. So now you bring her into the fold in gardening because she wasn't, did she have a background in that at all, or it was brand new to her, right?
Not at all. I mean, Tony was, I don't know. To me, she's been so supportive. I mean,
Right.
And I think there was a perfect combination because over here you got a crazy dreamer, and here you have another person that kind of keeps it on the ground, keeps you on the ground, and keeps you grounded.
The stability that most of us men need.
And it's I sometimes say that I'm the luckiest man on earth because to find a mate that way early on and have it work. But she's gone through thick and thin, and
Since from the very beginning.
oh, absolutely.
You know, and I imagine with her personality, whatever business you were in, she would be supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So what was her main contribution? The books, the money? What did she
The
do
money.
for you?
She's the money person.
Watches the money.
Oh, she watches it like a hawk, and but that's the element that we needed to make it successful.
Right.
Because when we needed the money to expand or do something,
Can we do this?
Yeah,
Do we have the money to do this?
exactly.
And then let's wait a year.
Yeah.
Maybe in a year if things
Or how do
continue.
we get the money? To
Yeah,
do
true,
this?
right?
Exactly.
What's the best thing
Yeah.
we could do? You want to address Gina's question?
Yeah, definitely.
Tiger? John's daughter?
Yeah, and I think that this would lead into a good question for my dad too. But Gina had mentioned that England is going peat free, and we talked about this a couple weeks back.
Yes.
We had a guest that was talking about core, the coconut fiber that was replacing peat in so many different aspects.
It had a
of the
coconut
industry.
derivative, right?
Yeah.
Is that the same show, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that number one, I think that it's definitely a transition because we've learned during that interview that the coconut fiber, the core material, is very sustainable. It was a byproduct of a huge industry, and for years and years and years, they just did nothing with it except throw it away. So the fact that we can use it and it's a byproduct is super huge, especially when we think about peat being a product that is harvested. So it's mined. You go to these big peat bogs, you dig it out, you harvest it. It does replace itself. It does replenish itself eventually, but nonetheless, it is a product that needs to be mined or harvested. Core being a byproduct is much more sustainable in that way. And also we're learning that core is a little bit more beneficial than peat. It works a little bit better than the peat products. It's cleaner. It keeps the humidity and the moisture and the just everything about it. The sterile environment is a little bit better. So I think it's a great move. And I think that England making that move is good because it kind of forces, we need that every once in a while. And California is a big state for doing that, where it forces our hands sometimes to
Right.
do things.
Yeah, it's one of those ready or not.
Yeah. And then eventually everybody makes the move, and then we don't ever even know different after that. But I was going to, ask my dad with that question. That's a big change in the industry. And I know we talked about organic products before with pesticides and stuff. But
Yeah, what does it mean?
what do you think would be something that the industry should do that would be a good change for the betterment of maybe the environment, maybe for all of us as people, or just maybe for the industry? Do you have any ideas as far as like, man, if our industry would change the way we do this, I think it would be just a lot better for everyone.
Well, I think in many ways we're very positive from the standpoint of the consumer because we are geared towards the consumer, and so we're providing beauty or we're providing food. I think an easy change, but probably difficult, is the containers. Everything's a plastic byproduct.
Plastic. There you go.
And we need to look at that a little bit more constructively and say, in reality, these plastic pots what's the usage on them? In fact, nowadays, many of the large suppliers, the big growers, don't even recycle them because they don't want to take a chance on any bacteria or any kind of disease being carried. So the recycling of containers is no longer there. So in the old days, we would stack them up and send them back to the vendor or whatever. They don't even take them back anymore. So we need to come up with a better solution for a plastic or some sort of material that will degrade organically. And there are some paper mache pots, and they prove to be very viable. But at the same time, they don't provide the optimum condition for growing stuff.
You know, that was my first thought. And are they? Is part of the problem that they're weak? I mean, they're not going to last that long, or?
Well, it's no. They do last a season, which is probably optimum.
Okay.
But they don't provide the best environment for growing. And what I'm trying to say is that, in spite of the knock on plastic pots, they're black, and so the root systems get hot, and it grows.
And they absorb the heat.
And so the bottom line is the grower wants to put it in his pot and wants to get it out on the truck as soon as possible. He doesn't want to have it sitting in a nursery.
Okay, so as the layperson, why can't you just spray those pots black that you're talking about?
You could come up with something like that. Yes, absolutely. Come up with a different color or something that will transfer the heat, so therefore be able to move it. The other thing is the thickness of them. They're wider. They're much thicker because of the paper.
Right.
And so therefore, again, you're looking at shipping. How much more room does it take on a truck or weight to ship it across the
Things
country?
people don't think about.
And then
talk
just
about
the
money.
durability of it. I mean, it grows in a large nursery, somewhere where they get moved around and they're sitting on soil, and somebody drops it and it breaks, and now you got to replace that pot, and that pot is 50 cents instead of a nickel. And so, on a large scale, it's very difficult, to replace the plastic, as far as the pot goes itself.
Now, you mentioned that they don't even want the pots back to
Right.
recycle because possible contamination, possible this or that. Are you talking about contamination from the plant that was growing in there, the fertilizer? What contaminants are they concerned about?
The environment that they get stored in. If it's not a clean environment, just
Fungal, mold.
Yeah, exactly.
So my
Things
next
like that
question, I
grow.
think you've answered it, because now we're talking money, sterilizing them before they're recycled.
Right.
But then that's adding another dollar
Cost.
and cost to what you're doing.
It's all added cost.
It's not cost effective.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that's one of the reasons that when we talk about organics, we just experienced in 2020 the COVID, which was a bacteria or a disease.
Virus, yeah.
A virus. Thank you. And whenever a nursery experiences a virus, because it does happen in a nursery, but usually in the greenhouse, plants get thrown away.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't even, to fight that virus is so expensive. It costs more money than what the plant's worth sometimes.
Yeah.
So, it's not even something you talk about. You just eliminate it.
It's like when they find these diseases that appear on trees, right away they're very proactive on keeping it in that area, not letting it spread, finding out where it came from.
Yep.
What are the possibilities? And so that's now, is that getting back to the pots now? Is that something that's being actively looked at in the industry? Or
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I brought it up to a lot of the suppliers and people that I work with, coming up with a better solution. Because ultimately it's going to be something that's going to come home to people are going to talk
I
about.
mean, if they're talking about getting rid of straws and other things,
Right.
I mean, it seems like a no-brainer on that level too.
I mean, even though the industry has gone to many safe chemicals, they still come in plastic bottles.
Yeah.
So you're taking two steps forward, but in some sense, a step backwards.
Exactly.
Because you're addressing certain issues, but not this issue over here. And sometimes changes are made because of a groundswell of people that are really concerned, but these same people haven't thought about what you're talking about. So it's
Exactly.
not going to get addressed. We're going to take a break for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. This is Garden America. Great questions, great comments. Thank you so much for tuning in today. John's in Louisiana. Fausto Palafox, Tiger Palafox, I'm Brian Main. We're going to take a break, and as we say, in radio or TV, back after these messages on Biz Talk Radio. Garden America has returned to your radio, your computer, or your whatever listening device. We are digital. We are streaming. We are just about everywhere. Google, Spotify, Garden America radio show on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. By the way, this show today will be uploaded by our webmaster, Daniel, early this afternoon. Go to Garden America radio show on YouTube, but even more so, please go to our web page, our website, gardenamerica.com, and check things out. It does help us. We like the traffic. We do appreciate it. So that's gardenamerica.com. And our YouTube channel, Garden America radio show. Even Alexa, if you say play Garden America podcast, she'll play one of our shows. So how about that? Speaking of where we've come from.
I mean, all that whole scenario of look us up on Facebook, on YouTube, and all this. You never used to do that.
No, not at all. In fact, in the last 6 months or so, Daniel, our webmaster, he's got us on all these platforms. So we're just about everywhere on the iHeart platform, digital, streaming. You know, I've heard us pop up on places I had no idea. I'm like, oh, that's us.
Yeah.
How about that? And the first time Alexa played our show, I'm like, okay, Alexa, thank you so much. So, and if you ever have any questions about where to find us, you can always reach out to us as well. Daniel has put up our our URL, gardenamerica.com, on our Facebook page. So click that when you get a chance.
I wanted to mention something else because earlier in the conversation with my dad, we were talking about the Mission Hills Nursery being a part of the community. And one of the things that my dad was involved with, and it's coming up next weekend, is the Mission Hills Garden Club Garden Walk.
Is that once a year?
Yeah, it's once a year.
Already we're talking about that again?
Every Mother's Day weekend, right? And so, you know, I mean, talking about being a part of the community, talking about a concept that kind of expands on people's involvement with gardening. So the Mission Hills Garden Club Garden Walk is a fundraiser for their organization where they sell tickets and they allow people to tour the neighborhood and go into people's yards. And by doing that, you get inspiration, you get ideas, you see real life. I mean, it's one thing to see a picture in a magazine of someone's yard and you're like, oh, that's so beautiful. You know, but we all know magazines are very well photoshopped. The photographer was there at the right time with the right lighting. And
the sun was going down. It was a beautiful day.
Exactly.
Now, these people obviously are giving their blessing.
Yes. Yeah, we don't just randomly go into people's yards. But, you know, there's no better way to see what you can do in your own yard than to visit a neighbor and see what they've done in theirs. Mm-hmm. And so my dad, who was involved with the Mission Hills Garden Club for so many years, was one of the people that had the idea for the walk, right, as a fundraiser. And I think, what are they going on now? Do you remember?
I think we're on our 25th year.
Yeah.
Make sure you're up close.
We're on the 25th year. So they're celebrating this year the 25 years it's been going on. And it started out in one of our neighbors' living rooms. And I still
just the idea, right?
I still remember the folks that began this garden walk are no longer around, but there was a lady that had a shop up the street, and she wrote the first check for $100 to get the ball rolling. I mean, she says, "I believe in this. Here's $100."
So then you have to visit these households, these people that have these yards, and say, "Hey, would you mind if?" And then, but making sure that there's a reason to even take a walk through that yard, right? I mean,
well, they have to look at a route. Make sure that it falls within that route.
So they wanted to keep a walking tour.
Yeah, because we want to keep it. We're one of the only. I think we're the only walking tour in San Diego.
But also to make sure that there's something to look at, because not everyone's yard is something to look at, right?
You know, scientifically, when I bought Mission Hills Nursery, what I scientifically did is I went to the gas station and bought a map. Back in those days, you could unfold a map. And I wrote and I made circles with a compass, a 1 mile, 5 mile, and a 10-mile circle. And before I bought it, I visited every single neighborhood on that map. And,
so you vetted them.
Basically. And so every house in Mission Hills, I would see a gardener, I would see flowers, I would see well-tended, maintained yards. So naturally, that was a reason to buy there because people had pride in their properties. Therefore, what's great about this walk, going back to the walk, is when you walk from house 1 to house 2 or whatever, you're going to see 10 other houses that have spectacular yards. People in Mission Hills really have a lot of pride in their gardens.
And it could be so different from one house to the next.
Exactly. And so therefore it makes a pleasant walk. And that's why we've kept it as a walk.
And I do want to put a quick disclaimer in there about this year's walk. Is one of the things that they learned from COVID was to sell tickets and have time slots. And so they capped the ticket sales at 1,000 tickets this year, and they're sold out. So there's not, maybe they work off of some cancellations if you show up the day of,
right,
which is next Saturday, May 12th. Am I right? May
13th.
May 13th.
It's a Saturday before Mother's Day.
Yeah, Saturday, May 13th. If you show up at the nursery, you might be able to get a chance to get a ticket if somebody doesn't show up for their time slot or there's cancellations. But they've sold out, and there's 1,000 people that have bought tickets to go on this walk to be able to see homes, and they do such a good job. And my dad's saying, in the community supports it so much that they don't have to put repeat houses too often. So I think one of their rules is they never repeat a house unless it's been remodeled.
Right. Unless there's something different to look at.
Yeah, for 4 or 5 years. So and that's how many homes in different parts of Mission Hills there are. That
how many homes are we talking about here?
They usually do
a
10 to 12 homes 10 on the walk.
But you're going to see 1,000 homes. I mean,
yeah, just walk in the
neighborhood.
Sure. The front yards are sometimes better.
These
than
are people
backyards.
who have agreed. Bring people through here. We're good.
And then a lot of people say, these are just walk-bys. The front yard looks spectacular, so people just walk by and take a look.
And this is just in the Mission Hills area.
Exactly.
Has there been any talk about expanding that to other neighborhoods?
We've talked, and then always next it because we have
it's enough to handle this.
Exactly.
You have to hire.
I mean, this is all volunteers. Wow,
people who have a passion, who love the industry.
And then I will piggyback on that and saying, look in the neighborhood that you're at, because usually I don't think there was a garden tour before this one in San Diego.
There was the idea came about up in Del Mar.
Okay.
In Del Mar, but they used it as a single fundraiser, and then they didn't do it anymore.
Okay. So the idea was there in Del Mar, and then you kind of saw that and were like, hey, let's make this happen, and then they kind of carried it year after year. And what I'm getting at is nowadays, if there's a garden club in a community, usually this is what the garden clubs do to raise funds, because it's a great opportunity to do something that they're passionate about, but at the same time raise funds. Mm-hmm. So if you live in Del Mar, there's probably a Del Mar garden tour. If you live in Coronado, there's a Coronado garden tour. If and this is countrywide, maybe worldwide. I'm sure they probably even do it in England.
Chelsea.
Yeah. But so to answer your question, if you look into the region you want to see, I know that there was one in Alpine for many, many years. And so you can find garden tours that showcase different areas of where you live and different style homes as well, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to take a break. We've got 2 more segments, so stay with us. Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio. Veronica says her grandchildren are very impressed at all the platforms our show is on. and why wouldn't they be, right? Because that's how the younger people are. Like I said, Spotify, Google, we're just about everywhere. So thank you for supporting Garden America. Back after these messages, break time on Biz Talk Radio. All righty, we are back from the break here on Facebook Live. And, of course, later this afternoon, want to catch our show on our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show. Every YouTuber says like and subscribe and share, so we're going to say the same thing. Our subscriptions are increasing, though. I told Tiger last week, at one time they were 50. Now we're up to about 190, pushing 200.
Uh-oh.
We'd like to get to 1,000. And, of course, our website, gardenamerica.com. Let's see. I guess we're pretty much caught up here.
On questions?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So, Dad, it's spring here in San Diego, at least. What are some things that you're excited about this spring?
I'm excited about the rain because every garden on the walk, on anybody's walk, to be honest with you, is going to be beautiful. I mean, the flowers, you can see the landscape throughout San Diego. I mean, I don't think San Diego has been so yellow in many, many years. I mean, the flowers, the wildflowers are just fantastic.
Yeah,
Mustard
so much
and all
color,
that.
right?
I was up in we took a drive to Vegas, but we went by way of just north of Temecula on the west side. And if you saw the poppy fields, the mountains are just covered in poppy fields. So everywhere, everybody is going to have a wonderful spring, and I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
I think also seeing it just in nature also inspires people to do it for themselves. You know, I mean, when I am around town and I see the hills with flowers, or I see trees blooming, it kind of reminds me that, like, oh,
I want my yard to look like
that.
that.
I want to do that, or I want that plant, or, you know, I wish my yard could look like that. And so it's really good when we get these wonderful rains, because as we know, in Southern California, we don't always get them, and we're not always inspired by what we see in our hills when it's dry. And
There was a lot of rain.
yeah, so I think as a overall, it's going to inspire a lot of people to get out there and garden.
Yeah, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, we are caught up.
perfect.
So what are your days like now? Are you officially retired, or are you kind of hanging on?
I'm not really hanging on, because this
This guy to your right.
man
Yeah.
next to me
Right.
is running the show. However, I'm still involved. I'm not one of those guys that can just go off into the
it's in
sunset.
your blood.
Yes.
You know, somebody
Yeah.
once asked, well, I've been asked this, and I know, you know, professional musicians and so on and so forth, when are you going to retire? And the answer is, retire from what?
Yeah.
This is who I am. This is what I do. I haven't sold insurance for 40 years and can't wait to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, gardening's a passion. I mean, so you're always going to kind of, you'll be attached in some way.
And in many ways, you know, using a platform like this to spread the word.
Sure.
You know, gardening is an integral part of everybody's community, and we appreciate that. And like I say, Mother Nature does her own job, and
Right.
she did a phenomenal job this year. But appreciating that and then bringing it at home to one's individual. I don't care if it's a potted plant in the corner of your patio, it's still flowers. You know, it's
Yeah.
still beauty, or fruit for that matter. You know, edibles. So the idea being is that I see that as my goal is to continue to spread the word, so to speak, because I do
and
believe
maybe
in
do
it.
things that you didn't have time to
Exactly.
do before.
Yeah.
I give him so he's kind of freshly into retirement still. So I kind of give him about another 2 or 3 years, and then I see him being the president of some orchid society or
right,
like on the board of some garden facility or
some way, shape, or form.
Exactly, because I think he's trying to enjoy it now. I mean, one of the things he does all week is makes lunches for the grandkids, and you know, has fun with, you know,
Yeah.
doing different stuff like that. But you know, I give him a couple more years, and then I see him getting it, because you were always involved with those groups before.
Yes.
And I think because of the business, it was hard, because you go to work, and then after work you go to do that, and then it just is
Right.
just a never-ending, you know, revolving door of it. But now, if you take a little break, I think that you'll be involved.
And
with
this gives
something
you
like
time
that.
now to settle, kind of think about things. You don't have to do it right away.
No,
It's kind of, okay, what do I really want to do? Or what's been in the back of my mind that, like you said, I didn't have time to do it before.
yeah,
Yeah, the brain still works, so you want to be productive.
Yeah.
And this is my passion, so we want to continue to build on it.
Absolutely. Staying active, moving around,
Absolutely.
you know, not just moving around, not just sitting around.
Well, and that's one of the things that, you know, the whole idea of gardening is awesome, is because any age can do it. You know, I mentioned my son growing a little sunflower seed, and, you know, he's 8 years old and learning the idea of patience and growing something and seeing what can happen.
He's
if
going to
you-
be so proud.
Yeah, nurture it and
Like
take
you
care
did
of it.
that.
Exactly. And then, but at the same time, as you know, you get older, you go back to the things that you can do. Maybe you can't take care of a full landscape anymore,
Right.
but you can take care of your potted plants or your house plants. And, you know, you're just, you know, I mean, excited to see new growth or a new bloom. I mean, you shared a picture to John and I this week. I think it was this week, of your Nimbus rose.
Nimbus rose, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just exciting. You're like, oh wow, it's budded,
First
it's
blooms of the
blooming, it's
season.
the first bloom of the season. You want to share it with
And
somebody.
lemon spice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. It's like, look at this. You know, and even though you've done things and you're successful, we talked about, you know, Isaac, how proud he's going to be. I don't I don't think that ever wears off. You're still proud of what you did, and it could be so rudimentary.
Gardening is an act of faith. When you take a seed, as Tiger says, and put it in a little cup and watch it sprout and have it eventually develop into a flower, that is an act of faith. And to be able to see that and experience that. And I think that's where I see a lot of my future endeavors going, is because for the longest time, reading and gardening were America's first number one and number two pastimes.
Right, sort of the foundation.
Exactly.
The basics.
And then all of a sudden we had platforms, and that kind of went away. But COVID brought it back. I mean, I recall seeing young students, they were in college, and they can't go to school. They're sitting at home. They can only watch so much TV, and
What
they
are
were
you gonna
literally
do?
coming into the nursery and saying, "Teach me, educate me. We have the backs. I want to start a garden. I want to start this." And so a lot of that's staying with people, and a lot of that is kind of a permanent thing, and I think it helped them through this process of being isolated. And again, faith and the fact that you're getting patience, you're learning patience, were two things that I think
And they
came out of this.
discovered what they're capable of doing.
Exactly.
I can grow that. I hear so many people, I can't grow anything.
Yeah.
I don't have a green thumb. Well, what have you done? What have you tried? Why do you think you're a failure? Oh, I bought this and I put it in the windowsill, and what should it have been on the windowsill? Did you water it too much
every day, and now you overwater it? Did you never water it? Now underwater.
So yeah, I think the position you're in now, I would imagine you love giving advice. You love helping and teaching.
Oh yeah.
You're showing somebody
Absolutely.
something. I get that in the building here during the week, and I'm like, okay, be real careful. You're not the expert. Everything I've learned has been because of Tiger and John and Sharon and Bruce over the years, but I discover I have the right answer sometimes. I'm surprised at the advice I give them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did that come out of me? I'll harken back to a discussion we had on the show, or something. And it's like that Pothos right there has no business living in this studio with these lights
It's a survivor.
and all those roots down there. And maybe twice a month I fill it with water. And it's been in here for probably 3 or 4 years since you can
know.
remember.
I know.
And right now it's just kind of a fun experiment. It's like, look at this.
Yeah.
It doesn't really belong growing, but it is.
All right.
It's funny. I like this guy. Just like we talked about this with John as well. When somebody says, well, you can't grow that in this zone, this won't work. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to grow it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to grow this. And sometimes you're successful.
And you adapt.
And you adapt.
I mean, you never think about, we were at this concert I said yesterday, and we're sitting there outside, and all of a sudden it comes in this flock of parrots that have been at the beach all day, and then they come back to roost at night or whatever.
And these like parrots that
These
talk.
are tropical
right.
parrots that
Macaws.
that don't belong here.
Right. So, and the Ocean Beach has a lot of those
Exactly.
parrots, by the way.
So things adapt. They adapt.
Right. And those birds adapt very well because compared to our native birds, they can take care of themselves.
Exactly.
They can be aggressive when they need
can.
to be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting how things do change. Let's see. Oh, somebody says you could write a book.
Yeah,
there you
he's
go.
wanted to
And that
do
is
that.
that is one of the things. I'll tell you a little bit of. I have all these little metaphors and stuff. This is something I learned from my dad. So as men, as he says, you're born, you reproduce, write a book, and grow a tree. I planted many, many trees in my life. So the book is the only thing left for me.
Is the only thing. Hey, we're going to take a break. We've got one more segment coming up. I do want to thank those on Facebook Live for your great questions, your comments, those on BizTalk Radio listening to our show. By the way, this is last week's show. We are pre-recorded. You are 1 week behind, but remember this, listening to Garden America, you're never really far behind. Okay, we're going to take a break. One more segment coming up after these messages on BizTalk Radio. We are back from that break. It is our final segment for those on Facebook Live, those on BizTalk Radio. Thank you for tuning in. Fausto Palafox, Tiger's dad's in studio. I'm Brian Main. And do you have some more points that you want to share with our listeners and viewers?
Oh no! I mean, the idea of gardening is a wonderful thing to how do I say it, transplant or give to your children.
Pass
It's
down,
some-
sure.
Pass down and have them involved in it. It's something that's fascinating. But really, the point that I want to get, it's one of the last points I wanted to make.
Yeah, no, sure. Take your time.
Is I wanted to give a shout out to Janine Palafox, Tiger's wife.
Yeah.
She has a volleyball game this afternoon. She teaches at St. Augustine High School. This is CIF. This is a lady that is in a men's school, and last year she took all CIF in volleyball. She's doing
Really?
it again. First woman ever.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Very proud
Well,
of her.
congratulations, huh?
Yeah, she's making her way.
Making her way, right?
Exactly.
What does she teach?
She teaches freshman English. I mean, that's got to be like the hardest subject ever.
So you're talking, these are 10th graders, 9th graders?
Ninth graders.
Ninth graders.
Yeah.
English.
English, how to write an essay, how to read a book.
They don't teach cursive anymore, though, do they?
No.
Gosh, that went out years. I mean, wow. I remember in grade school, okay, now tomorrow we're going to learn how to write G,
Oh yeah, right.
and then it's going to be F. And if
You had
you
to
look,
trace it.
and they had it on top of the chalkboard.
Exactly.
They had the capital and the small case. And you looked at that thing, I don't write an F like that anyway. That's very, what, is that old English style, I guess?
Exactly.
That we were taught?
Old Gothic or something
Gothic
like that.
or something
yeah.
like that. So, hey, good. Congratulations to Janine. That's fantastic.
Yeah, not only is she a great teacher, but she's a great coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did well.
Always love her.
You did
I
well
did.
For meeting her in a club, right?
Yep. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
You
I
talked
did do
about
well.
that. Yeah, that's good. It runs in the family.
Oh.
So, what is? Again, I know I asked this, but what are your plans this afternoon?
Now I'm a granddad, so I'll be going to a little league baseball game.
Okay.
And then in between that, then we're gonna go support Janine at her school.
Volleyball
I'm bummed out though that I'm gonna be missing my granddaughter's basketball game down in Chula Vista.
Can't be everywhere
Can't
at once,
be everywhere,
right?
yeah. But I do have just right after this, we do have what do we call it? Community gathering at the nursery.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
What does that entail? What's going on?
well, it's I don't want to get into politics, but there's some stuff going on with the community, so I got to go see.
Protesting or
as
something.
always,
Yeah.
everyone's
Yeah.
got something to protest.
Yeah, exactly.
What's bugging you today?
Yep, exactly.
You know.
But yeah, it's going to be a busy day. It's going to be a very busy
Well,
day.
that's good. So you're still very active.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely,
you got to be.
absolutely.
That's what it's all about.
I think it's funny because, not to get too much into my dad's personal life, but like, he's owned this nursery for 30 plus years. He's been involved with the garden industry for a long time, and I think one of the things that has kept him actually so active is that they live downtown San Diego. So being downtown San Diego, where there's constantly events and you're in the epicenter of the ballpark and restaurants.
You
and
can't get away
music.
from the activity.
He just walks out of his building and, hey, where are these people walking to? Follow them. And
Right.
next thing you know, you're at some street festival or anything like that. And I think that's part of the thing that has kept him and my mom super active.
Mm-hmm.
I used to laugh because when I was younger and Janine and I used to go downtown for a nightclub or a dinner or something, we would laugh because sometimes we'd randomly stumble upon my parents out and about downtown
Hey,
too.
what are you doing here?
Exactly. I'm like, what are you guys doing down here? So, you would think that, they own a nursery. Maybe they own a large home somewhere where they have a big yard. No, they've got their patio and their plants, but their garden, their nursery is their yard. They
Sure.
get to come to that and experience all that they need.
It's funny, speaking of environments and where we live, when we first moved into our condo, there's the parking lot and there's a hedge. Well, these hedges are small, probably maybe 3 to 4 feet. So you can see cars pull up. You can see it's not the most attractive view, but, whatever. So I remember at one point I called the HOA president or whatever. I said, hey, would you mind telling the landscapers to let this hedge grow? I want to grow a little bit. And I'm waiting, right? She goes, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm like, really? Well, today that hedge is 9 feet.
There you go.
And I have
Green monster.
All privacy.
I cannot see the parking lot. Nobody can see in,
Yep.
and they've kept it that way. But then as you go down to the other units, it's short. It's small. And in some cases, there's no hedge at all.
Yeah.
We are so lucky because we're tucked away. Tiger knows this. Nobody even walks through there except the people that live upstairs. So we're private. I've even got my plants my patio, I outgrew my patio. Mm-hmm. So I started putting the plants along the walkway, which is technically HOA, kind of waiting to see.
But you're beautifying.
And you know what? Nobody said a word. Again, nobody comes down there. Mm-hmm. So I've got all these plants down there. The upstairs neighbor, they love it, because, I've got little lights out there, treating it like it's my own.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it really isn't. But like you said, beautifying it. And the landscapers work around all that. Mm-hmm. They see it for what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate in that aspect of where we live in terms of the positioning on the map of the grounds. So I can get away with some stuff.
Excellent.
I'm not breaking rule. I mean, by this time they would have said something.
Yeah.
Because they do walkthroughs.
Yeah.
But no,
It looks nice.
too many plants.
As long as you keep it looking nice, they won't bother you.
Mm-hmm. That's just it. Keep it looking nice. We've got about a minute to go.
Yeah. All right. Well, get out there and garden. For everyone in the country, even East Coasters, May is the Mother's Day.
People are waking up back east.
Is the day that they all get started, right? So you got 1 week to go. So get planning, get excited,
right.
Start visiting the garden centers.
Get outdoors if
you're
you've
not
been indoors
buying anything
too
yet.
long.
Exactly. Southern California, we got great weather, so start planting now and enjoy it.
Yep.
Have some fun.
Fausto, thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
You
And
added
thank you
a
for
lot.
inviting me. Thank you for the
Absolutely.
invitation.
Anytime.
It was
If
wonderful.
you just want to, if you're driving by in that nice 55 truck of
And you
yours
want to hang out?
and you want to hang out, just come on in. And John is back next week. Hey, big thank you to all of you on Facebook Live, Biz Talk Radio. Thank you for supporting Garden America. Our website, gardenamerica.com, our YouTube channel, Garden America Radio Show, and many, many ways to listen to our show. So on behalf of the entire crew, Fausto Palafox, Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco, I'm Brian Main. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a safe week. We'll do it again next week right here on Garden America. Take care.